I'm not sure about.
He's an interesting character, is young Paul Hollywood. Anyway, we'll come back to him. Let's talk to Jonathan Morter here, social media expert, because the problem with Twitter as well is that we keep hearing that it's going to be worth billions, it's going to be sold to somebody, and every time that happens, the share price goes through the floor, and everyone goes, well, hang on a second, why is Twitter worth any money at all? Because most of the people on it are actually fake, and a number of fake accounts that I deal with, or people at least you don't know if they're a real person or not, is legion. Let's find out from Jonathan what's going on. Jonathan, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Katie.
Now, am I right to say that nobody really knows who's on Twitter? Is that kind of a fair statement, do you think?
Oh, that's a tricky statement. Well, I mean, look, all right, you guys talk about fakes. There is a lot of fake accounts on Twitter. But can I also say there's also now a lot on Instagram. There's always been a lot on Facebook. It's a stain on social media in general. And I've been banging on about this for about 7 years. Right. And thanks for having me on to talk about it.
No, that's fine.
Things were done about it.
I mean, this latest story, which emanates from the original piece in the New York Times, which was fascinating, I thought, about this company in America, which apparently offers to bring you as many as sort of 500,000 fake followers if you pay them money. I mean, is this something that's been known about for a while?
Yeah. This has been done for, again, 7-8 years that I've been involved with social media. I kicked off in 2008, 2009. I once had a client who I actually lost the client because I refused to artificially inflate their numbers. Right. And they had their numbers inflated by thousands and thousands and thousands, and their career actually went the other way, went quite downhill because you couldn't tell who the real followers were to sort of, try and sell your record to as such, and who were the fakes that didn't care. It's been going for a long, long time.
I mean, as far as Paul Hollywood's Twitter account is concerned, which has now been closed down, he had 700,000 followers. I mean, how would we know, or how would anyone know, how many of those were actually not real?
Well, unfortunately, because he's shut the accounts, I don't believe for a second that he didn't know anything about it, first of all. And
well, that's what he's saying. He's saying that somebody did it on his behalf, which is possible, I suppose. Since we don't know for sure, legally, we should probably say that.
It does happen. There are agencies, which is why I don't work with agencies anymore, and I'm not going to name names. All right. I know for a fact there are a lot of agencies out there that do this to show that they're doing some work and to build followings. And I know for a fact there's a lot of agencies that buy followers. But there is some ways of checking, which isn't perfect. There's a website called twitteraudit.com where you can put a user's name in, and it's not perfect, but it can give an indication of whether they're likely to have fakes or not. That's one way of doing it. Another way is, you mentioned about numbers earlier as well, like so-and-so's got 300,000, someone's got 1 million. One little trick you can do is look at how many they're following as well, because don't be shocked if you see someone that's got, say, 100,000 followers and you think, oh, that's a lot. But if they're following 150,000, it's not actually that wow factor. And the problem is as well in a lot of industries, it all comes down to it's wrong. They look at how many numbers of followers you have, especially in the music industry that I'm in, which is very, very thoroughly annoying, and that's got to change.
This reminds me of an item we discussed on the show last week where we talked about fake airbrushing of photos. Surely we should be educated about these things that, you've said you've been banging on about this for 7 years and we're only just waking up to this now and discussing this on mainstream media as it's called. But what can we do about this apart from researching it? And how do we make sure that young people who are so impressionable when they're buying products that other people might have recommended because they've got hundreds and thousands of followers, how can we not highlight this more and say this is just a bit of a fake world you're entering into?
Oh, it's the emperor's new clothes. I mean, it really is. You have people that are seen in inverted commas as influencers, where brands are giving them items to talk about on their social accounts. And again, there's a lot out there, and I know there are a lot that are genuine. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot out there that are not actually influential. They just have very big following numbers. And I've got 3 kids myself. I've got 2 teenagers, and thankfully, I think I've educated them enough that they're not too fussed on social media. In fact, they don't really go on it very much because they're on it. I.e. me, I'm on it, and I probably embarrass them probably with all my rants.
See, I haven't perfected that because my son, older son, who's just about to be 14, he's got an Instagram account. And he's got about 500 followers, which is pretty impressive for that age, I think. But I haven't been able to talk him out of having one, really.
Well, no, I mean, my youngest son's into Instagram, and I think he's got a similar amount of followers as well, which I think is pretty good for that sort of age. But I think with my own children, I've
we've lost him there. We're having some real problems with the phones today. I don't know about social media, but we're having some very odd things happening. Jonathan, are you there?
Hello, I can hear you.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Okay, you disappeared there for a moment. My apologies.
Sorry about that. That might have been me.
No.
But yeah, and it's thankfully I think I've educated the kids enough and where they see friends that have suddenly got 5,000 followers.
Yeah.
They know straight away that's fake. They've bought them. But
what's in it for these people? I mean, why have fake followers in the first place? What does it give you? Because it doesn't appear to give you access to money. I mean, can you just go to maybe a sponsor and say, look, if you give me more money to sell your goods, I've got 1 million more followers than I used to have?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it now. Yeah. Beforehand, I would say it's also vanity as well. Hey, look how popular I am because I've got X amount of followers.
And are these companies...
It's almost like a currency.
And are these companies that are selling popularity, if you like, are they making a lot of money then?
I believe they are. Yeah. I mean, there's not just. I think this company, the New York Times, that's been exposed, called Review Me. But in fairness, there's a lot of companies out there that are doing exactly the same thing. Another big one as well is YouTube views. Because of YouTube influences, there's a lot of fake YouTube views going around as well, which I've noticed hasn't really rippled with this particular news item, but trust me, that will kick up at some point very soon.
I'll tell you a weird thing. A weird thing that happened to my Twitter account. This would probably be about 18 months ago now. I suddenly found myself being followed by loads and loads and loads of Japanese accounts, like one after another. For some reason, for a period of about 3 days. Suddenly, you know how it tells you're now being followed by? There'd be sort of a boost of maybe 20 in one go, then maybe 30. And it was all Japanese, alphabet and Japanese inscriptions, Japanese names. And I didn't know what it was all about. I don't know whether they unfollowed me again or what, but it was very strange.
Yeah, I mean, another thing with this, which is, to be fair, it sounds to me like they might be bots. Now, this is where it gets a bit tricky because there are some very good bots. Not in your case. It sounds like you were followed by fakes, but which does happen. There are some. Yeah,
but why though? Again, I mean, my question to you: what would be the point of that?
Well, there isn't. That's the thing. There isn't. What some bots are made to do are made to follow other people so for example, one of these fake bots might have inadvertently got on and followed you, and what can easily happen, you can create thousands. I've actually spoken to someone that I won't ever name, and they told me how they did it because I was intrigued. How do you make so many fake accounts? And what they do is they set up a sort of a program where if one of the fakes follows somebody, then you'll find that over a period of time, a lot more will start following that same account. And that's how they make these fake accounts look like they're genuine followers. So you're not getting 5,000 in one go, if that makes sense. So, because I've had the same sort of situation where I had a lot of people from the Philippines, I think it was, follow me. And I couldn't fathom why that was happening. And when I looked into it and I found out how the mechanisms work of fake followers, it only takes one or two to have inadvertently followed you, and then you'll find it's like a wave of others that suddenly appear, and you'll find they'll also disappear after a few weeks as well. Yeah. Well,
that's the other thing that I find is you get some of these really weird Twitter accounts, names of people that I've never heard of, but who have something like, say, 500,000 followers, and they're some sort of obscure musical performer or, some kind of a motivational speaker or something like that, and they follow you for a couple of days, and if you don't follow them back, they disappear.
Yeah, that's called churning. Yes,
churning.
Churning, it's called. And what happens is basically, and I experimented with this a few years ago, where basically you follow a load of accounts all in one go, so many, and then you wait for hopefully a certain percentage to follow you back, and the ones that don't follow you back, you unfollow about 2 weeks later, and then you do a load more. And that way you can artificially inflate the following on Twitter, Instagram as well. And so it makes you look like you are more popular than you really are. Right. And I did an experiment where I created, I was invited to talk at a wine conference. Now, I am no expert in wine. I'm from Essex. It's red or white. That's it, you know. But I got invited to speak at one. And the reason for that is because I made a fake account of a fake sommelier, and I made out that I was very influential. And they all believed me. And they booked me to speak at a conference because I was the influential Jon Morter, which incidentally is a slight French version of Jon Morter, which is my name. And I spoke, and I actually said, you know...
Did you actually go and do it?
I did, yeah. I did do it.
Brilliant.
It's on YouTube somewhere. That's
great. That I would like to see.
Well, it was an experiment in social media for me, because I do a lot of social media experiments, just to prove that, you know, look, you all think that I was a big influential wine sommelier. I haven't got a clue what I'm talking about. But you like all my words that I'm coming out with, because I've done a bit of research on Wikipedia. And
that's quite astonishing, really, when you think about it.
Well, that's why I'm worried about younger people being influenced by things that aren't quite real and genuine. For example, you can easily build up a profile of yourself, as you just explained, saying that you're all kinds of different things, and you bump into someone or you tweet them and they follow you back and those kind of things, and all of a sudden young impressionable people think that this 25-year-old is going to be something that they're not at all.
Absolutely. And it happens. It does happen, and it's happening a lot. One little trick you can do, and all the listeners listening can do, is Twitter especially, but it works with Instagram too, is if you see someone that's got a big following and you think, oh, that's quite impressive, always look at how many they're following as well. Yeah. Because if they've got just as much, I've seen it. I've seen people that have got nearly 1 million followers, yet they're following about 800, 900,000 themselves. Right. They're just churning. That's just churn. That's nothing to do with how popular they are.
And what's the future, just very quickly, Jonathan, because we're nearly at the end of the thing, what is the future for something like Twitter? Because already people have said it's plateaued. If you're a youngish person, there's no point in joining it, because unless you're already being followed by loads of people, what's the point of it? And then moving to Instagram, and Facebook is kind of becoming slightly more I suppose, user-friendly in the sense that it lasts longer. You know, you don't have to keep going back down a timeline. I mean, has Twitter got a life which is going to run out?
No, I disagree, actually. I think Twitter is going to stick around a long, long time yet, because it's still the de facto place for news. A lot of people.
I agree with that. No, it certainly is for me. I mean, it's the one I use the most, but I'm just hearing that younger people don't see it that way.
I disagree to a point as well. I mean, I've got my youngest son's 11, and I know a lot of his friends, and they use Instagram and Twitter, a lot of them. And Instagram is very ring-fenced and very, you can't do a lot extra with it. And I think it's going to get to a point where people are going to go, well, I want my news, and I want to know what the weather's like in here, and Twitter can do all that. Yeah. And I'll happily go on record and say that no, Twitter's got a lot of life left in it yet, without a doubt. I just think that not just them, Facebook, Instagram, they all need to just really together put their heads together and really rid their networks of all these fakes, because at the end of the day, they want the big numbers to show all the shareholders to say, look how many users our platform's got. Whereas what they should all do is say, okay, look, let's be honest here. You've got X million, you've got X million, and you've got X million fakes on your social media platforms. Let's work together and get rid of a whole lot of them, and have a sort of a fresh base and really come down hard on any fakes. Because I know for a fact that they can spot fake accounts. They can. That's not just Twitter. That's Instagram, Facebook. They can definitely check. And
that's what they need to do, really. Just, Jonathan, thank you very much indeed. Jonathan Morter there, social media expert and occasional sommelier, apparently, as well. I must go and find that out, because there's nothing I like more than to see a load of people sort of, I don't want to use the word poncing around, but, pretending they know something about something and listening to some guy who they think is an expert and nodding sagely when he's a complete fake.
Do you remember the guy in the news a couple of years ago was a taxi driver, and they whisked him through all the different studios?
Yeah, and
they
stuck him in there, on camera,
And I can't even remember what the interview was about or what they asked him, but it was live.
It was something about trains, I think, wasn't it?
And he was basically the Uber driver outside.
The Uber driver, it was great, absolutely. I mean, these things can happen in the world of 24/7 news, but that's